Well, I can't wait to get started with today's topic. Today's topic is Survive to Thrive Plan, and it outlines an agenda that I've created for my family to host conversations that we should be having right now during these very crucial times that we are going through. So, the objective is first to survive the onslaught of what is happening, and then we must plan to thrive. And so I'm sharing this information with you today. And so, for those of you who might be joining me for the first time, welcome to the Sovereignty Sage podcast. This podcast is a women's empowerment podcast based off of something my mother used to say to me all the time when I was growing up. She would say, Melania, women are the strongest beings on the planet. They just don't know it. Well, I'm here to help you to know it. My name is Melania Johnson, and I am your Sovereignty Sage coach. So let's begin, shall we? So, with everything that is going on these days, I wanted to uh, think about what it is that I can personally do, right, to make a difference. And I'm referring to what's going on in the United States right now. Our government is uh, under siege and collapsing. Our democracy is being unraveled. And I believe, because of the name of this podcast, sovereignty, that we do have power. We have power of the people. We have power. Women have power. We haven't advocated for our power. And over the last few years, we have lost power. Women are in a weaker position than they have ever been. I shouldn't say have ever been, but they've been in a long time. And if you are paying attention at all, it's very interesting to see who is leading the march right now. It's a voice of women. They are the ones who have had the courage to stand up, to face power, to speak truth to power. We have sovereignty and we have to utilize it. So, what can we do in this time? And I put together an hour long agenda. Some time ago, my family on my dad's side used to have like Zoom calls and on Sundays, and they weren't organized in any particular fashion. But I was thinking in terms of what are some of the things that I can do. Where does this all start? Where should we be focused right now with all the onslaught of information and decisions and laws and rules being abandoned? What can we do? And I believe, and I've said this before, it starts with family, community, right? It starts with ourselves first, our own personal sovereignty. It starts within our family. It starts in our community that then builds to our nation and then builds internationally, right? And so, starting with the family, some of the things that we need to prepare for as families, right, is our current realities. This administration said that there's going to be pain. Musk said it. Trump said it. People are feeling it. And this is the beginning. We're probably a little over 2 months. I'm sorry, 1 month in. And because of some of the decisions that are being made by the president, um, I, there's going to be pain to be felt. One is the fact that it's going to cost you more to live, period. Tariffs are going to raise prices. There are government agencies that are being eliminated, and they may then turn into privatized entities, or companies will come in to provide those services. Corporations charging us at every turn. So you can be guaranteed that the dollar that you had yesterday or December, or let me see what on January 19th, 2025, is not going to carry you as far as it did after January 20th, 2025. So you have to prepare for that. Uh, the uh, the rounding up and deportation of immigrants who work in some of the hardest, most undesirable, underpaid jobs, specifically in the farming industry, has left fields of food not planted or not harvested. And so we've also have threatened tariffs on places like Mexico, who deliver a good deal of food for us. We have a bird flu situation that is going on, and it is spreading to other animals like cows, as well as people. So, and we no longer have, and I did a talk on this before in terms of food security, right? So these are things that are going to impact us, and that kind of leads us into, our first our topic here, a bullet point is secure your food. There will be food shortages. There are going to be high prices. Yes, you're going to pay more for eggs and everything else. And so you have to have a plan. And in one of my previous podcasts, I talked about everyone should have a garden. And I'm telling that to everybody that I know. Plant in your backyard if you have one. Do raised beds so that you don't have to spend so much time weeding and watering. You can have container gardens if you have a porch or a balcony. It's grow your own food as much as you possibly can. Also, in terms of where we are today, many people have been cut from our federal government that serve to protect us. And one of the areas that you may not be able to trust moving forward is the FDA, and making certain that the food that we eat is safe. So if you can produce some of your food yourself, one that's going to cut down on, expenses, is going to make certain that you have food to eat. You can live as a vegetarian should push come to shove. I did so for 10 years. These are some things to give some thought to. You grow certain things in your garden, somebody else grows something different in their garden. You trade. You learn some of the old crafts that are, like that my mom and her generation and some women and men do now. Things like canning food, freezing food, drying food, so that you begin to have a storehouse of food should things go wrong. Here's the thing, if they don't, that's good, great. But if they do, you're prepared. So, this family plan to survive and thrive is first, let's make certain that we survive. Make certain that you can feed yourself and feed your family and share and feed those who are close to you. I shared some resources before of a farmer who talks about, as a Black farmer who he's called Lead Farmer 73. And he talks about having a survival garden. And I believe that we should be doing that in our communities, but especially in underserved communities where there are food deserts. Grow as much of your own food as possible. And that's going to be important if you want to survive and thrive. And the lead farmer 73 also talked about, if it doesn't take long to have a mature garden. And he says before you know it, you're going to have more food than you can eat, freeze, can, dry, which means that you can give to those maybe in your communities or on your street or wherever you are that may not have access or the money for food, right? Or you can sell it. Now that's a side hustle, right? So it's just food for thought, literally. But securing your food source is going to be very important. And so I've broken down this agenda into like three areas: secure your food, uh, number two, secure your community. And number three, secure your country. So, in terms of that second bullet point, securing your community, start first with your family. Make certain that your house is in order. Make certain that you are able to protect your household financially, physically. In this world right now where there is really an assault on our psychological well-being, this is a great time to nest, to get really cozy in your home and to create a sanctuary for yourself and your family that aids in helping you to rest, aids in helping you to maintain your mental well-being and stability and your spiritual life, if that is something that you have. Secure your home so that you can enjoy it and be safe within it. Secure your family. Make sure everybody is good to the extent that you can. And here's the thing, too, that's going to happen, because there are some cuts that are being proposed in a budget that is trying to be passed now that cut some safety nets for people, Medicaid, um, things like SNAP and food stamps, or, food assistance. So again, we don't want our families and our communities to suffer. So we may be called upon for assistance. And so it's about taking care of ourselves and our families. And so that's one thing that we need to do. Spend your money. The second bullet point under secure your community is spend your money in your community, period. Be careful about supporting big box stores, and things like Amazon. Amazon support means that businesses and companies within your locale really can't thrive. And so they close down. And after a while, the only resource you're going to have are things like Amazon and Walmart's and Target's. And so when you support small businesses, you support your community. You keep the dollars in your community, and you help to build a thriving business community. I say also, for marginalized minority communities, keep your money in your community whenever you can. Help us a business that the owners look like you so that they too can thrive and support themselves and or their families. The third bullet on that secure your community is become active in local government. Democracies don't fall overnight. Make certain that you have people in your local government that represent you. Run for office, if you will. It's time to get people out of the government who have been bought and sold. Consider running. In a previous podcast, I can't remember the organization, but it helps people to prepare and campaign for uh, service in our government. You have to be at the table in order to make the rules. So consider that. One, join the economic blackouts. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But coming up, February 28th is one of the first, or outside of the economic blackouts that some people of color, Black folks, and allies have stopped supporting. Companies like Target and Amazon, and there's a whole list of other companies that have pulled back their DEI initiatives. But this economic boycott on February 28th is a 24-hour boycott that says don't buy anything, period. Not gas, not food, you're not ordering online. We're just not buying. Because in a capitalist society, the one thing that we do have at this point is economic power. They're coming after us economically. We can go after them economically. And you can do so by keeping your money in your pockets. And I'm going to say that this is a twofold strategy. One, because when their shares start to fall because they're not meeting their sales needs, they will then recognize the power of the people. Because right now, this administration is giving unfettered power to corporations, rolling back protections in the workplace, rolling back and eliminating watchdog agencies that protect us, which will give corporations unfair advantage to own us in every way. We can break that momentum by keeping our money in our pockets and not supporting. I think that we need to become less consumerist. Consumerism drives capitalism. When we stop consuming, they stop having power. The other reason to do this is because inflation is going to weaken the dollar, meaning your money is not going to go as far as it did before. So you will need reserves. The more money you save, the better your position. The next bullet point is secure your country. Find your tribe. Collectively, we have a chance. Right? A lot of folks are feeling salty about, the way this election went and the ramifications from it. Again, a lot of folks are going to be hurt. But on the other hand, that's a part of the plan for us to be divided. It's a part of the plan. There's an old saying, a house divided can never stand. It goes for a country too. And while we are being pitted against each other, we're not fighting the real enemies. And those are the corporations and the rich class that are working to cut resources for some of our most vulnerable people in our country, to give those who have more money than they can actually spend in a lifetime tax cuts. That's the reality. So you have to, again, you start first with yourself. You get your own sovereignty together, your household, your family. You extend that to your community to make certain that it's solid and safe. You extend that nationally, right? And that's that collective voice that we need in order to you know survive this and thrive, both individually as well as a collective of citizens. Find organizations that are championing um, a movement. And I'm going to share a couple of resources so that you know how folks are moving and you understand, you know, what's going on and how you can participate, because the Netflix and chill days are over. I'm not saying you can't Netflix and chill, right? Because that's a part of making your home warm and cozy and pleasurable. But we cannot be couch potatoes here. We've got to stand up. So that is the agenda. It's a conversation. I start. It's an hour long. It starts off by honoring our legacy as a family, as a community. As you hold these, maybe on a monthly basis, you can have different people share different types of information, like next steps. If you can see this, and I will make this available, this agenda. But, the next step is complete contact and resource information sheet. We depend on our phones for everything, but if, something goes down, how do you get in contact with the people who are important to you? You should have a contact sheet, contact information, old school, right? Everything is, there's some friends that I talk to all the time. If you ask me to recite their phone number, I would not have a clue. Back in the day, we had to memorize all the phone numbers of the people we knew. We didn't keep them on a sheet of paper or anything. We had them right up here. The other thing is that families have resources. You may have people in your family who work in human resources, or people who are handymen and women, or you may have people in the medical industry. Families are a source of information. And so you are able to get assistance and information. You know what? I've got something going on in my house. You might live in Georgia and I might live in Pennsylvania, but typically how much something like this, if I get it repaired, is going to cost? Well, I can call my cousin down in Georgia and say, hey, this is what the situation is. And they can provide me some resources. Or you might be about to graduate from college and you're going to be looking for a job. Well, if you have some folks who work in the human resources industry, they can help you prepare your resumes. They can help you to prepare for your interviews. And so we need to be able to, be able to contact each other, as well as understand the resources that we have in our own families. And next on that vision is building community. What does that mean to you in today's world? I mean, you get to define that for yourself, but what does community mean? It might be your church, it might be associations, it might be, one of the things I shared with, a friend of mine, when I shared this agenda with her and I talked about gardening. She lives in an apartment building. Well, if you can have space to have a community garden, now you're talking to the people within your building. Now you're forming community in a way that is right, in your own building. So what does that look like for you? And if you continue to hold these meetings, have progress reports, share, what you're doing in terms of surviving and thriving, and share what is working. Share, images of your garden that you're growing, and food that you've prepared from that garden. So these are some of the things that I want folks to think about, in terms of we need to be having conversations with our family. And I wanted to do something, so I created an agenda, and I hope that you're able to use it. And you might not have everybody coming to the table at once, right? But if you can get a few people, and those few people they talk to other members of the family, this might be able be a way to grow. Back in the day, and in some families, there's Sunday dinners, right? Where you go to Big Mama's house, or everybody, that you can have a virtual Sunday dinner and have these types of conversations, and make them as delightful as you want to do, right? You could have a portion that's dedicated to children, to share their thoughts, or to share their art, or to share their voices, to share their work and their triumphs. Have a portion for, again, when the way I set this agenda up is the opening and closing. Let me actually go into this document and raise it. But the opening and closing, is from one of the elders in the family, closing with words of encouragement. And give people a time in your agenda to ask questions, share information, have a voice. So that's my contribution, to what is going on today, as well as building our own personal sovereignty. The quote for today is: "Sovereignty begins with self, family, and community. Secure these now while you fight collectively to secure your country." That quote came from me. So I've talked about, making certain that our homes are protected, and our in every sense of the word, right? And our minds and our spirits are protected. I want to share with you about my business, Be Smart Coaching. That name of my company is derived from my mother. Yet again, she was my first coach, and her name was Margie Be Smart. And one of the programs that I offer is about mental fitness. And I'm encouraging us to prioritize our mental fitness and well-being, and because it's essential during this day to have that kind of resilience. And I'll be honest with you, I have fallen on my face, and I have not, been on point these last few weeks because of stress. But I do have some tools to help me to get back on track, right? And my offers one of those tools. It is a 6-week mental fitness program that helps you to build greater levels of resilience, to help you to quiet the voices of the saboteurs that live in our minds and take over our lives. The victim, the hyper vigilant, the voice in you that is critical of yourself and others, and the voice that wants to avoid what's going on. There's a lot of folks right now trying to avoid the realities of today, and so this 6-week program helps us to identify our top saboteurs and to apply daily strategies to weaken them, so that we can build something called sage powers. And our sage powers are that part of our brain that helps us to deal with challenges and rewire our brains a little bit differently, so they don't spiral into the negative places that zap our energy and zap our focus and zap our ability to be resilient and happy. The 6-week program comes with an amazing app that you use daily to track your daily mental fitness. It has exercises that you can program throughout your day to build your mental fitness, throughout the day. It's not just something you do once a day, but you build these habits into your day to help you to increase your feelings of well being. Also, a part of this program is a weekly coaching session that is facilitated by me with 5 other folks who are striving to accomplish the same things that you are: mental well being. There's also a digital copy of the best-selling book, Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine, and you'll be joining a growing community of people who are trying to live their best life in a very different way. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please go to www.besmartcoaching.com to learn more about this program. I've used it myself. I swear by it. So there's work to be done, and we're going to start with ourselves, start with our families, start in our communities. We're going to make inroads to other organizations so that we are able to build resources that are going to support us. I thought I had updated. I forgot to add a slide here. There are some organizations that I think are really important. There is the General Strike US .com, which is trying to build a coalition of 10 million people to then be able to have work strikes and work slowdowns. Again, hitting the capitalists where they live. And the other is, let me see if what is it? It is the peoplesunion.com. They're the ones that are calling for this February strike, economic boycott. There's a number of organizations that are doing that, but they're also putting into place more strikes, right? Because it's going to be, you have to have a strategy that keeps hitting them. So it's going to be more than one economic boycott, right? We have to be persistent because things aren't going to change overnight, but we have to be persistent. Okay, so there's work to be done, conversations to be had, forces to join. In closing, I have run my mouth enough for today. If you feel that this has been helpful to you in any way, please like, subscribe. It's the only way for me to become known in the algorithm so that I can share this information with others. And if you haven't heard this in a while, you are powerful. Now go rule your world and claim your sovereignty. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I'm going to be here next week with some more tips to help us gain greater levels of sovereignty as women and to be able to survive and thrive during these times. Again, like, subscribe.